Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Ethan Carter. I'm from a small town outside of Austin, Texas. And let me tell you something that might just save you from making the biggest mistake of your life. Never ignore your gut, especially when someone begs you to. Because when my wife whispered, "Don't open it," something inside me twisted. It wasn't fear. It wasn't love. It was truth clawing its way up my throat, screaming to be heard. But before that whisper, came the war. And you're about to hear how it started. Why the hell would you do that, Olivia? In front of our son? My voice echoed through the kitchen, plates rattling in the sink. I wasn't just angry. I was burning. She stood across from me, arms crossed, eyes narrowed, not a hint of guilt on her flawless, practiced face. Don't raise your voice at me, Ethan. Maybe if you actually acted like a father, he wouldn't have needed me to step in. I slammed the fridge door shut, the noise slicing through the silence like a blade. Step in? You publicly trashed me in front of Tyler's whole class, Olivia. You told the teacher I was barely around, that I couldn't even be bothered to attend one parent-teacher meeting. I was in a double shift at the hospital. You knew that. She didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just rolled her eyes like I was some teenage boy who forgot to take out the trash. Don't act like this is new. You've always put work first. Always. You missed his art show. You missed his baseball game. And on top of it all, you think showing up with a gift once a year makes you Dad of the Year? Wake up. Wake up? I barked, stepping toward her. You think I like missing those things? You think it doesn't kill me? I'm busting my back in the ER every day to keep this house, to make sure he has everything. You don't know what it's like to hold someone's life in your hands, to run chest compressions on a kid while your own is at bat. Oh please, she snapped, venom thick in her voice. Always the hero, doctor, aren't you? You don't even see him anymore. He's slipping through your fingers and you're too busy saving strangers to notice your own family falling apart. The kitchen was suffocating now, walls closing in, air thick with things we never said until they exploded like this. And that's when he walked in. Tyler. 11 years old. Quiet. Too quiet. He held a small box in his hand, wrapped in silver paper, edges slightly crooked like a kid had done it himself. Happy Father's Day, he mumbled, eyes darting between us. I made this, for you. My heart sank. My anger dissolved like salt in water. I stepped forward, kneeling in front of him, the guilt crashing like waves. Hey, bud. Thank you, I said gently, trying to smile. That means the world to me. He handed it over, then hesitated. Mom helped pick the paper. But the rest is just me. I nodded and looked up. Olivia's face was blank now, poker-faced. But her lips moved just enough for me to see the words. Don't open it. It was the whisper that rewrote the world. Why not open a child's Father's Day gift? Why warn me? Why whisper instead of smile? The silence grew louder than the fight ever was. Tyler was already halfway back up the stairs, dragging his feet, headphones already over his ears. I turned the box over. Light. Too light. I peeled the paper slowly, revealing a plain, black notebook. No designs. Just a label that read, "Dear Dad, from Tyler." I held it in my hands like a ticking bomb. The kind that doesn't make a sound until it blows your life apart. You didn't think I'd open it, did you? I said without looking up. She didn't answer. I flipped it open to the first page. The handwriting was messy. A kid's scrawl. But the first line? I don't know who to talk to, so I'll write it here. That's when I knew. Something was wrong. Deeply, gut-wrenchingly wrong. And Olivia? She knew. She wasn't just hiding something. She was hiding everything. I wish I could tell you I stayed calm. I didn't. I hurled the chair back, the legs screeching against the floor. What the hell is in this book, Olivia? She froze. I flipped to the next page. Then the next. Then another. Each word slicing deeper than the last. And every sentence carried one clear message: my son had been hurting, and I hadn't even seen it. Because someone was keeping me blind. You silenced him, I whispered, voice trembling. You shamed him for wanting to talk to me. Every page in here, he's scared. He's scared of saying the wrong thing around you. Scared of being himself. Olivia's face cracked, just slightly. Her arms dropped. But her words were colder than ever. He needed protection, Ethan. From you. From your moods. From your absence. You're not the saint you think you are. No, I growled. But I sure as hell didn't teach him to lie. Or to hide. Or to write secret journals because he couldn't talk in his own house. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a gift. It was a cry for help. If you're a parent, don't wait for a holiday to listen. Don't wait for a diary. Your kid's silence could be screaming, but you'll never hear it if you only listen when it's convenient. And if someone ever tells you not to open something from your child, you better open it twice. Because the truth? It's usually wrapped in silence. I sat in the garage for almost an hour after the fight. Not to cool off. Not to calm down. I just couldn't go back in there. The diary was still in my lap, open to the same page. Sometimes I wonder if Dad would like me more if I were different. Mom says I'm too soft, too clingy. She says I should stop writing poems and join football like the other boys. But I don't want to be like the other boys. I closed it. Not because I was done, but because I couldn't breathe anymore. What kind of father doesn't know this about his own son? And what kind of mother makes him feel ashamed of who he is? That whisper. Don't open it. I kept hearing it like a loop in my head, over and over. Like she knew I'd find something. Like she'd planted a trap, but one meant for him, not me. Olivia always had a way of controlling things, with smiles and soft threats. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She just erased the parts of people that made her uncomfortable. And now she was doing it to Tyler. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I lied. I told the hospital I was dealing with a family emergency, and for the first time in 11 years, I meant it. When I came into the kitchen, Olivia was already dressed for the gym. Lemon water on the counter. AirPods in. Not a single crack in her image. She didn't say good morning. Just a glance. The kind that said we're not doing this now. But I was. You read it, didn't you? She said finally, adjusting her jacket sleeve. I nodded once. I did. Well, I hope you're proud of yourself. You just violated your son's privacy. My voice was low. Controlled. You told me not to open it. That alone should have been enough of a red flag. She scoffed. Or maybe I just didn't want you overreacting like this. I stepped closer. You call this an overreaction? He's writing about hiding who he is. He thinks I wouldn't love him if he doesn't change. Where would he even get that idea, Olivia? You're making this about me again. No. You made it about you. You filtered him. Curated his emotions. You edited his childhood like some PR campaign. Stop dramatizing everything, Ethan. He's just emotional. Sensitive. He'll grow out of it. Sensitive? I spat. That's the word you've been shaming him with, isn't it? That's the poison in his pen. You made him feel like he needed to be less to be loved. She stood silent. Cold. Regal. Like a queen caught off guard by a servant's rebellion. You want to talk about who's missing games and art shows? I said, stepping forward. Fine. I missed some. You're right. But at least I'm not the one telling him he has to earn his right to be himself. You don't get it, Ethan, she snapped suddenly. You don't know what it's like to raise a boy who. Who what? I snapped. Who might be different? Who's not the tough guy, straight A, homecoming king you fantasized about? She froze. I saw it. That flicker. That terror in her eyes. Because I'd named the thing she tried to pretend didn't exist. You've known, I said quietly. Haven't you? You've known since he was little. And you've been trying to correct him ever since. Stop, she whispered. He loves poetry. He talks to the dog like it understands him. He picks flowers and keeps them in his sock drawer. He's 11. He's beautiful, Olivia. I said stop, she screamed. And for the first time in years, she lost control. Just for a second. But enough to see it. The fear wasn't about Tyler. It was about her. Her image. Her reputation. Her precious world of perfect birthday parties and curated Instagram posts. A son like Tyler? He didn't fit the mold. I left her there, in that glossy kitchen, surrounded by spotless surfaces and soulless silence. And I went upstairs. To him. His door was half open, music playing low. He sat cross-legged on the floor, sketching something in a notebook, not the notebook. A different one. A blue one with stars on it. I knocked gently. Hey, bud. He turned. His eyes cautious. Like he didn't know if I was friend or enemy today. Hey. I read your Father's Day gift. He looked down. You weren't supposed to. Mom said it was just for keeping. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Sat beside him on the carpet. She told me not to open it. He looked up fast. Did she really say that? I nodded. He was quiet again. Then finally, I thought maybe if I wrote it down, you'd know what I couldn't say. I wanted to hold him. To apologize for every missed moment. But instead, I asked what mattered most. Ty, are you scared of me? He blinked. No. Just scared of disappointing you. Why would you think that? He hesitated. Then whispered, because I think I'm not what a dad wants in a son. That broke me. Right there, on that carpet, next to Legos and sketchbooks and broken toys, I broke. I love you. Not a version of you. Not some future you. You exactly how you are. His lips trembled. Even if I like boys? I paused. But only for breath. Especially if you do. He fell into me, arms wrapping around my neck, shaking from the sobs he'd been holding in for God knows how long. And as I held him, one thought kept ringing in my head. I almost didn't read the diary. And if I hadn't, I never would have met my real son. The next few days were quiet. Not peaceful. Not resolved. Just quiet, the kind of quiet that only happens when two people live in the same house but don't speak the same truth anymore. I'd wake up before Olivia. Make Tyler breakfast. Drop him off myself. Sit in the car long after the school bell rang, watching kids run in with laughter, wondering how many of them were hiding bruises you couldn't see. And at night? I'd read more pages. Of the diary. Of him. Sometimes I wonder if I disappeared, would anyone even notice? I tried telling Mom I wanted to be in the play, not football. She said boys don't prance around in costumes. I watched Dad laugh once at a nurse who had pink nails. I think he was joking. But it made me scared to ever paint mine. That one shattered me. Because I remembered that moment. I did laugh. And I was joking. But the way my son remembered it made me feel like a stranger to myself. You don't get to choose which moments carve scars into someone. And that's when I knew something had to change. The next Friday, the school held a parent conference about Tyler's recent withdrawal. I sat across from the guidance counselor, a soft-spoken woman named Ms. Kim. Olivia was already seated when I walked in. She didn't look at me. Just sipped from her reusable bottle and waited like this was just another item on her schedule. Ms. Kim cleared her throat. "We're concerned. Tyler's grades haven't dropped, but his spirit seems dimmed. He's avoiding eye contact, skipping recess, drawing darker things." She handed us a sketch. It was of a boy in a glass box, reaching out, surrounded by smiling adults who all had their backs turned. I couldn't speak. "But Olivia?" "Oh please," she said, brushing a speck of dust from her jacket. "Tyler's just creative. He's always had a flair for the dramatic. You give him too much room to sulk, and he'll milk it." Ms. Kim raised her brow. "I'm sorry, but this isn't about being dramatic. This is emotional isolation. Kids don't draw themselves in cages unless they feel caged." I turned to Olivia, finally finding my voice. "He doesn't feel safe in his own skin. And it's not because of me. That did it." She turned. And this time, there was fire behind her eyes. "Do not turn this into some righteous father crusade," she snapped. "You think showing up for one meeting makes you some kind of savior? I've been here. I've raised him. I've kept him out of trouble while you were too busy playing hero at the hospital." "No," I said sharply. "You managed him. Curated him. Trimmed the parts you didn't like." Ms. Kim interrupted, calm but firm. "This isn't the time for personal attacks. We're here for Tyler." But Olivia wasn't done. "You know what the real problem is?" she said, turning toward me but addressing the counselor. "Tyler is being told it's okay to settle. That it's okay to live in fantasy, to write in little journals and draw lonely pictures instead of toughening up. He's not going to survive in the real world that way." "And what world is that, Olivia?" I barked. "Yours? The one where appearance is more important than authenticity?" Her voice dropped to a chilling calm. "In my world, boys become men. Not sobbing messes." That was the moment. The room fell cold. Ms. Kim sat back in her chair. Silent. Because the mask? It finally slipped. Olivia had been able to fake warmth. Smile in the right places. Say the right phrases. But this? This wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was revelation. And I saw Ms. Kim write something quietly on her notepad. That night, I packed a bag for Tyler. I didn't tell Olivia. I waited until she was in the bath, her favorite Friday ritual, then walked into Tyler's room. "Pack what matters," I whispered. "We're going to Grandma's." His eyes widened. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, buddy," I said, kneeling. "You did everything right. That's the problem." He hugged me so hard it nearly knocked me over. We didn't slam the door on the way out. We didn't yell or curse or burn things. We escaped. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night. The next morning, I texted Olivia. "He's safe. He's staying with me for now. We'll talk once I have legal counsel." The reply came instantly. "You're seriously pulling this? You're kidnapping him?" "No," I wrote. "I'm protecting him." And the next thing she sent? A lawyer's number. Of course. She'd always been ready for war. But so was I now. Not for revenge. Not to win. But to finally stand between my son and the storm. The courtroom wasn't like the movies. There were no dramatic gasps or pounding gavels. Just sterile walls, cheap carpet, and the low hum of voices trying to sound composed. But the tension? You could taste it. I sat at the table next to my attorney, hands clasped tight. Across the room, Olivia wore her victory face, calm, composed, polished to perfection. Hair tied, blouse crisp, lipstick unbothered. She looked like a woman arriving to reclaim her image. What she didn't know. That image was already crumbling. Your Honor, her lawyer began, we're requesting full custody on the grounds that the father removed the child without prior consent, disrupted his school schedule, and is emotionally manipulating the boy with exaggerated claims of neglect. Emotionally manipulating? I muttered under my breath. My lawyer placed a calming hand on my wrist. Not yet, she whispered. Let them hang themselves first. Olivia didn't look at me. Didn't even glance in Tyler's direction. Who sat in the back, between my mother and a child advocate, clutching a red folder in his lap like it was his only anchor. Then my turn came. And I stood. Your Honor, I began, voice steady, I'm not here to fight a mother. I'm here to protect a child. My son. Who's been made to feel like who he is wrong. And I can prove it. Not through accusations. But through his own words. I turned. Tyler, can you bring me the folder? He stood. Slowly. I followed him as he walked, 11 years old, thin as a reed, hands shaking slightly. He placed the folder in my hands and sat back down. I opened it. And took out the diary. I'd like to read a few entries aloud, I said. With your permission. The judge nodded. Olivia stiffened. Sometimes I cry at night. I try not to make noise. Mom says it makes me weak. I tried to show her my drawings once. She told me to throw them away. Said they were creepy. I used to love dressing up. But after she laughed at me for wearing my dad's scarf, I stopped. I wish Dad knew. But I think Mom tells him not to ask. Maybe if I disappear, they'll stop fighting. I looked up. The room was silent. No coughing. No shifting. Just stillness. Even Olivia, who never broke posture, looked pale. My client isn't contesting that this diary was written by Tyler, my attorney added. We're happy to authenticate the handwriting. And the emotions. The judge cleared his throat. Mrs. Carter. Would you like to respond? Olivia stood slowly. Her eyes didn't meet mine. Or Tyler's. She walked to the front like it was a stage. Like this was her moment to take back control. I'm not perfect, she said, voice soft. I've made mistakes. But I've raised that boy. I've been there. Every day. Every night. Through every fever, every tantrum, every broken shoelace. I gave up my career to raise him, while his father worked 14-hour shifts and barely remembered his own anniversary. She turned, now facing me. Don't paint me like a villain for having standards. I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was trying to prepare him. For a world that won't always coddle him. That won't accept softness. That won't give a damn about his diary. She stepped closer to the judge. I taught him how to survive. That line made my chest ache. Because Tyler didn't need survival. He needed safety. And what she gave him was the exact opposite. My lawyer stood. With all due respect, Your Honor, we're not here to debate parenting styles. We're here because a child is quietly asking for help, and one parent is refusing to listen. She turned to Olivia. You talk about preparing him for the real world. But maybe it's not the world that needed changing. Maybe it was your expectations of him that did. And then the final nail. We request temporary primary custody with supervised visitation, pending psychological evaluation. The judge was quiet. Then he looked at Tyler. Son, he said gently. Would you like to speak? Tyler looked up, terrified. Then slowly, nodded. He walked to the front. Tiny. Quiet. Eyes darting between adults who all seemed to be deciding his life. I don't hate my mom, he said. I know she thinks I do, but I don't. Olivia leaned forward, finally moved. I just He swallowed. I just want to be somewhere I don't feel like I have to hide. I want to love who I love. Draw what I draw. Wear colors I like. And I want both of them to be okay with that. He turned, locking eyes with me. And Dad is. That was it. That was the sentence that turned the whole room upside down. Because it didn't come from a lawyer. Or a parent. It came from the one person whose voice mattered most. Later that afternoon, the judge ruled in my favor. Temporary primary custody. Counseling for both parents. And a follow-up hearing in 3 months. Olivia didn't speak to me as she left. Just brushed past like I didn't exist. But before she walked out of the courtroom, she turned back one last time and met Tyler's eyes. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just held the red folder tighter. That night, we sat on the porch at my mom's house. Tyler beside me, a blanket wrapped around both of us. He looked up at the stars and said, "Do you think she'll hate me now?" I shook my head. "No. I think maybe she'll finally see you." He nodded slowly. Then reached into the folder and pulled out a fresh page. And began to write again. This time? He didn't hide it. He wrote in the open. Right beside me. Some people lose gracefully. Olivia wasn't one of them. She didn't scream. Didn't cry. She didn't even call after the hearing. No. She did something worse. She waited. 3 days passed. Then the emails started. My supervisor at the hospital forwarded an anonymous complaint. Dr. Ethan Carter has been observed exhibiting erratic emotional behavior at work, including unexplained absences and questionable judgment around pediatric cases. I question whether someone going through a custody battle should be in charge of other people's children. I stared at the screen, heart sinking. The wording was surgical. Clean. Emotionally loaded but legally cautious. Classic Olivia. That night, I found 2 more. My landlord got one. So did Tyler's school. Nothing overtly defamatory, just enough concern, enough professional-sounding flagging to plant seeds of doubt. And that's when I realized. She didn't want Tyler back. She wanted me ruined. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. So I texted. I know what you're doing. You didn't lose custody. You lost control. There's a difference. This time, she replied. Control? Is that what you call trying to raise a child with structure and backbone? If you want to play fun dad, go ahead. Just know that reputations don't recover from weakness and you're putting yours on display. It wasn't a denial. It was a promise. 2 days later, a parenting blog featured an anonymous op-ed titled, "What Happens When Courts Side with Emotional Blackmail?" It detailed a story eerily similar to ours about a mother villainized for enforcing discipline, and a father weaponizing feelings to win a popularity contest with the child. Comments poured in. The internet picked sides. And one thing was clear. This wasn't about Tyler anymore. This was about Olivia's saving face. Rebuilding the version of herself she had before the courtroom exposed what lay beneath. The final blow came on a Monday morning. A concerned mother showed up at the hospital where I worked, demanding to know if her child would be safe in my care given my recent court appearances and emotional instability. HR called me in. They were professional. Gentle. But firm. "We're just going to put you on a 2-week leave, Ethan," my supervisor said. Not a punishment. Just optics. We have to consider the optics. And just like that, Olivia got what she wanted. Not custody. Not Tyler. But humiliation. That night, Tyler found me on the couch. I'd left the TV on but wasn't watching it. Just staring. "Are you in trouble?" he asked. I didn't lie. A little. Because of me? I looked at him, really looked. His eyes weren't scared. They were ashamed. And I knew that if I didn't fix this soon, he'd start blaming himself for everything. So I did what I should have done weeks ago. I told the truth publicly. I wrote a post. Not a rant. Not a takedown. Just the truth. My son gave me a diary on Father's Day. My wife told me not to open it. I did anyway. What I read inside changed everything, not just how I see him, but how I see myself. He thought he had to hide who he was. Thought I wouldn't love him if he liked art more than sports. Thought he had to earn my affection by pretending. I missed the signs. But now that I see them, I won't unsee them. And if that makes me an unfit father in some people's eyes, so be it. Because I'd rather be an honest one. I hit post. And went to bed. By morning, it had exploded. Hundreds of shares. Thousands of comments. Support. Outrage. Debate. But most importantly, relief. From parents who felt the same. From kids who were the same. And from Tyler, who stood at my bedroom door, holding his sketchbook, saying just one sentence. Can I show you something I drew? That's when I knew. No matter what Olivia did next. No matter how many articles, accusations, or poison arrows she fired. She'd already lost the one thing she couldn't fake, his trust. I thought she'd give up. After the court loss. After the blog post. After the internet turned on her polished facade like sharks smelling dishonesty. But no. Olivia didn't believe in surrender. She believed in reconstruction. And if that meant burning the past to build a new narrative, so be it. It started with a private meeting at Tyler's school. She showed up, uninvited, and requested to volunteer for their annual Family Assembly Week. A showcase of student art, writing, and personal growth. She wasn't there to celebrate her son. She was there to reframe herself as the mother who fought for him. Who always supported him. Never mind the diary. Never mind the court. Never mind the fact that Tyler hadn't spoken to her in 3 weeks. Don't worry, Ms. Kim told me in the hallway. We'll make sure Tyler's not blindsided. But I knew Olivia. She didn't need to speak directly to him. She just needed the audience. And in a room full of parents, teachers, and kids? Reputation could be rebuilt in less than 5 minutes. Unless Tyler beat her to the mic. That night, he asked, "Can I read something at the assembly?" I hesitated. It might be a lot. Especially if your mom's there. He nodded. I know. That's why I want to. I stared at him, this boy who once whispered his truth onto secret pages, now asking to say it out loud. Did you write something new? I asked. He looked at me, steady. No. I want to read the last page from the diary. The auditorium was packed. Parents jostling for seats. Teachers flipping through programs. Olivia near the front row, greeting familiar faces, arms full of cookies and small talk. I sat in the middle row. Heart racing. Watching Tyler backstage, small and still, holding that same black diary he'd given me on Father's Day. Ms. Kim introduced him gently. Next up, we have Tyler Carter sharing a personal piece. The microphone felt too tall for him. A teacher adjusted it. And then, silence. His eyes scanned the crowd. They landed on me. Then, on her. And he began. Dear Diary. I'm not scared anymore. I thought if I ever said that out loud, it would make me weak. But now I know, it makes me free. I used to think I had to be one thing to be loved, tough, sporty, quiet. But that version of me was always pretending. The real me likes stars and poems, and sometimes wearing colors that don't match. The real me is scared of yelling and loves when people remember birthdays. The real me likes boys, maybe girls too, I'm still figuring that out. But I don't want to hide anymore. Not from dad. Not from school. Not even from mom. Because I don't want to grow up thinking silence is love. Or that pretending is protection. I want to grow up honest. Even if that makes some people uncomfortable. The audience was stunned. Not because he said anything wrong. But because he said everything right. And when he looked at his mother, it wasn't with hate. It was with heartbreaking clarity. Like a child asking the adult to finally catch up to the truth. Olivia's face didn't move. Not during the speech. Not during the applause. Not even when Miss Kim gently placed a hand on her shoulder as if to say, "Let this land." Tyler walked off stage and came straight to me. No tears. Just relief. He had read the page aloud. And something about that made the world lighter. After the assembly, Olivia approached us outside. Not angry. Not teary. Just shaken. "I didn't know you still had the diary," she said quietly. Tyler didn't answer. She looked at me. "He's strong." "He always was," I said. "You just didn't want him to be strong that way." She bit her lip. For once, she didn't have a retort. Just silence. And then, the most honest words I'd ever heard from her. I think I hurt him more than I thought. I nodded. "You did." She blinked. But I didn't say it to be cruel. I said it because this story couldn't end in more silence. "Do you still want to fight?" I asked. She shook her head. "No. I think I need to figure out who I am too." And just like that, the war ended. Not with a bang. But with accountability. A few weeks later, Tyler asked me for a new notebook. Not black. Not secret. Just one with stars on the cover again. "Why this one?" I asked. He grinned. "Because I want the next story to be about the future." And this time, he didn't need to whisper. If your child gives you something and someone says, "Don't open it." Open it. Open it with both hands and a whole heart. Because it might not be a gift. It might be a lifeline.